Tammy Weick's first hermit crab came into her life in 7th grade, and she has had hermit crabs ever since for the past 43 years. Using what she learned from her crabs over the years, in April 2005 she opened the Crabbage Patch at her local flea market. Tammy's philosophy was to keep things simple, provide accurate information, and try to mimic what hermit crabs would find in the wild. Some of her early unique products and practices are now commonly found throughout the hermit crab industry. The discovery that hermit crabs like worm castings, developing a moist sand substrate mix for successful molts, and selling shells by opening size, to name just a few. From there, she opened a local retail shop, changed the name to the Hermit Crab Patch, and created an online store which she currently runs with the help of her husband, Kirk. Tammy says she feels very fortunate to be able to have a business that is also her passion for the last 15 years. Please welcome Tammy Weick.
Meet Me Under the Microscope is an up-close and personal look at my successful attempt in 2009 to breed both the Indonesian blueberry land hermit crab, known as Cetabeta lila, and the purple pincher land hermit crab, known as Cetabeta clypeatus. I've selected photos and videos that represent the different stages of growth of each species that I hope you will find interesting. In February of 2009, I was given a small colony of what I thought were Cenobita purpureus, known as blueberries, by a friend of mine that had gotten them from Felix Wang. Early one morning, I caught one of my females unexpectedly hatching eggs in her saltwater dish. I transferred the 75 or so live zoea into 2 plastic crabitats that I had filled with saltwater made from instant ocean, and hooked up an air pump with air stones to oxygenate the water, and hoped for the best. This first image shows developing eggs of C. lila, the Indonesian blueberry land hermit crab. The dark spots are the eyes of the developing baby hermit crabs, and at this point the eggs appear orange since they aren't that far along yet and are still full of yolk. The eggs of C. lila tend to be larger, more oval in shape, and fewer in number than C. clypeatus eggs. This video clip was taken on day 4. It shows what is now recognized as a C. lila zoea that is in an early stage. According to my notes, I found the first shed exoskeleton just the day before on day 3. Important to note here is the fact that this zoea already shows pleopods visible on the underside of its abdomen. This is typically not found until later stages in many Cenobita zoea species. It also already has a more advanced tail or telson with distinct uropods on day 4. Cenobita variabilis, the Australian land hermit crab, is the only species that I'm aware of that has been officially recognized as having abbreviated larval stages. It has 2 zoeal stages prior to its megalopa stage. From my experience with captive breeding of what has now been recognized as C. lila and not C. purpureus as originally thought, I believe that C. lila is another species that has abbreviated larval stages. In addition to the early pleopods and telson with uropods, by day 9 it has become a megalopa, whereas with C. clypeatus it took 27 days for megalopa to appear. Here is some close-up footage of a C. lila zoea on day 6. I have begun hatching and feeding brine shrimp and have also been experimenting with other foods such as spirulina fish flakes, as you see pictured here. As the spirulina flakes begin to soften and disintegrate, the zoea create negative pressure, swirling the suspended food particles and bringing them toward their mandibles to eat. Other new powdered foods that the zoea were eating, when mixed with salt water, were phytoplankton, zooplankton, and even powdered egg yolk. Capturing brine shrimp requires a very high energy expenditure, and these other options provide a more passive food source and good variety as well. This image of sea lila's underside gives us the opportunity to see its developing periopods. Later they will become the legs and claws. This zoea is getting close to his molt to megalopa. You can see that his claws are becoming more prominent, indicating that it won't be long. On day 9 is the final molt to megalopa. This zoea is already retracting from his exoskeleton. The tail has taken on the shape of a megalopa with its rounded telson. The speed of the following video has been increased so that you can more easily see the changes taking place. Periopods, or legs and claws, are becoming much more prominent as they are beginning to unfold. one final flick of the tail and our new megalopa is free. This megalopa is just over 2 weeks old and can be seen wearing a yellow Narita shell with a very red digestive tract. And now at just under 2 months, we have full-fledged baby hermit crabs. And this little one seems to have lost its shell. These 3 Indonesian blueberries are all 11 months old. It's interesting to see how different their sizes are. On this crab, you can see the dark longitudinal streaks located on the surface of the crab's legs and claws. This is one characteristic of sea lilah. Other distinguishing features are dark brown bands found on the underside of their eye stalks, lack of ridges on the outer surface of the large claw, and a brush of setae found on each inner claw. And finally, an image of one of my larger males at about 2 years, living up to his Latin name Lila, which means lilac or light purple. And next we have Cenobita clypeatus. In July of 2009, one of my pet crabs began to drop her eggs in the sand, so I moved her to a plastic crab habitat filled with shallow saltwater made with instant ocean. This first video shows her eggs a day before hatching. Eggs have been depleted of yolk and the babies are fully developed. This next video shows her proceeding to hatch the remainder of her eggs. I was much more prepared for this hatching and was able to get photos and video throughout the entire process. I used the same basic process of transferring the zoea into several crab habitats that were filled with instant ocean saltwater and added air stones as I had with my Indonesian blueberries. Here we see the freshly hatched stage 1 zoea along with their empty egg casings. Through this next series of clips, you will see a variety of zoea as they progress through the 27 days that it took to become megalopa. Here we see a now more developed C. clypeatus zoea at stage 3. Comparing this clip to the next, you will begin to see the difference between this zoea's periopods. Periopods are the future walking legs and claws that progressively become more prominent prior to the megalopa stage. After this next molt here, we see a C. clypeatus stage 5 zoea. Here in stage 5, we see the prominent pleopods on the underside of this zoea. We also see further dropping of his periopods, and if you look closely, you can even almost see the claws themselves. And here we have C. clypeatus at stage 5, and he's dining on a spirulina fish flake. I help him along a little bit at the end, give him a little more to eat. Even under the microscope, I like to hand feed my babies. I added this photograph because I thought it would be very interesting for people to see the difference between a day-old and a 3-week-old zoea. I love this close-up of stage 5 eyes. And here we have some final images of stage 5, just prior to molting to becoming a megalopa. According to my notes, we have Lily's baby on day 27 as she's entering her final molt to becoming a megalopa. This video taken under my compound microscope shows a much broader view. You'll now see the molt to Megalopa. We've sped up the video and unfortunately had some challenges with lighting. Success! We finally have Megalopa. This is video taken under the compound microscope so that we can again see a broader view of the Megalopa. Their color is really improved due to feeding fish flakes containing astaxanthin. Also, at this stage, we have to really be careful with them. They will cannibalize one another. They will also eat any remaining zoea as well. Here's a more detailed look at Megalopa. Back under the compound microscope, the babies are beginning to look a lot more like hermit crabs and a lot less like Megalopa. They are tucking their abdomens and ready for the protection of their very first shells. 9 days after becoming Megalopa, and while still underwater, I added a very fine sand and shell mix. At that point, all remaining Megalopa took shells. Within the next week, I set up their sea-to-land transition tank, and within the next couple of weeks, all shell-wearing Megalopas had buried and become full-fledged land hermit crabs. Here they are, about 2.5 months old. And at around 11 months. and finally, at close to 11 years old. In conclusion, the method I used was very labor-intensive. I used plastic crab habitats during the larval stages that required frequent water changes and consistent monitoring during feedings to prevent water fouling and die-off. Trying to do this on a larger scale using this method just didn't seem feasible, and the time investment required just not practical long-term. A Crescell system setup like Mary Akers used seems a much better idea with a higher yield. When all was said and done, I managed to successfully end up with 24 C. lila and 27 C. clypeatus land hermit crabs. I was thrilled to have finally been successful.